Hi everyone and welcome to another video. I'm lauranemacquart and today I'm going to talk about the books that I've read in the second half of January. We are nearly halfway through February. I know, I'm a bit late, but I don't care, so I hope you don't either. So I've read, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books. 2 of those were for my Invisible Cities project. And those were The Housekeeper and the Professor by Yoko Ogawa and Le Pays des Autres by Leila Slimani. And as I have already talked about those in my wrap-up of the books that I've read in January for Invisible Cities, I won't talk about them at length right now, but I'll recommend you watching that video because then you'll see food as well. And food was nice. Anyway, so The Housekeeper and the Professor is about a math professor whose brain only works for the past 80 minutes, while his memory only works for that amount of time. And in order to help him around the house, he has a housekeeper. And this book is from her point of view. He's a math professor and he loves numbers, and he really uses the numbers to connect with the world, especially because of his memory problem. And this housekeeper does not have a lot of knowledge about numbers and math, but she does find a passion for it. Her and her son do, and through that they link with the professor. And this book is about their relationship, their friendship, how the professor deals with his memory problems, and etc. etc. It's a wonderful book. It's very light, and it's got a bit of Elegance of the Hedgehog kind of feel to it. So I'd highly recommend this one. It's not very long, and it is also very pretty. And it's also about baseball. I love the link between baseball and statistics. Anyway, that is The Housekeeper and the Professor. And the other one was Le Pays des Autres by Leila Slimani. And this one is set just after the Second World War. And it's about a young woman who marries a man that is from Morocco, and she moves to Morocco to the village where he is from to live with him. And in the beginning she struggles with that life. And he struggles also to make a life for them as having a farm. And this book is for a period of 10 years about how they grow as people, how they interact as a couple, and also a little bit about their kids, what it's like for their kids to live in Morocco at a time where France, so being from a Moroccan father, a French mother, and living in Morocco when France was in charge. And at the end of the book, France is being kicked out. I'm not sure I completely like this book. I would have liked, it's very slow moving, and the characters evolve quite slowly as well, but there was something, I didn't really like the characters that much, and I think that's the reason I didn't absolutely love this, but I love the themes in this. Then we've got another book that I'm not going to talk about at length, and that is the 6th installment, I think, of the Chronicles of Narnia that I have been reading with Pauline from Dancing Lawn. I'm still filming the videos for that vlog, or at least the second part of that vlog. And this one was The Silver Chair, which is one of the books that I had least recollections of. So in this one, it's not the pensive children that we meet, but their cousin Eustace and his friend Jill, or at least he becomes friends with this girl Jill, and they're sent to Narnia to save the son of the king, so the prince that has disappeared 10 years before. And for that they befriend a Puddlegrum, a very cool character, and they have to travel to the north, and they meet giants, and they try to find this prince. I loved Puddlegrum, but I didn't really like Jill and Eustace, the main characters, and that colored my reading of this book a little bit. I think I was hoping for a little bit more happiness and Narnia-ness, and I didn't really get that from this one. But keep your eyes out for that vlog whenever I read the 7th book, because we're kind of spreading them out. So then we arrive at the 2 books that I'm going to talk about a little bit more. The first was the 4th book, but anyway, is Nachtblauw by Simone van der Vlucht. And in English this has been translated to Midnightblue, and I read this as a butter read with Laura from Laura Reads Pages. We've previously read a book that was set in Canada because she is from Canada, and this was our pick for the Netherlands, as I currently live in the Netherlands, and we are going to, at a later stadium, also read something that is set in France, in French, to challenge her. whether she'll handle it. Anyway, this one is one that I thought we should read because I knew Laura loved what's it called by Tracy du Chevalier, The Girl with the Pearl Earring, and this is set at the same time, and it is also, so The Girl with the Pearl Earring, the painting has been painted by Vermeer, who is a painter that also comes in this book. I had read this a couple of years ago in a day, and from what I remembered it was really nice. However, it disappointed. So we meet a young woman, Katrijn, in the Netherlands, in a village called De Rijp in the north of Holland, and her husband has died, and in order to flee the village that she is from because she wants a bigger life, she first goes to Alkmaar, then she goes to Amsterdam and works as a house mistress, how do you call that? The big boss of the servants, basically. Can't remember the word. And there she meets Rembrandt van Rijn, but her past kind of comes after her, and she ends up going to Delft as well. And there she works at a pottery where they make the Delft Blue, where they start making the well-known Delft Blue, the Midnightblue, of which I'll have a picture here somewhere. Delftblauw is a pottery style that has been inspired by the Chinese pottery at the time, and because they couldn't get a lot of Chinese pottery, they started making this one, and it's actually something that Delft, the city that I lived in for a very long time, well, for 9 years, is very well known for. What I loved in this book is that I knew a lot of the places where she had been. She comes from a small village, De Rijp, which I have actually been to, cycled through in last September. She spends time in Alkmaar, I've lived in a village near Alkmaar for 9 years, and there are parts where there's a lot of explanations as to what she sees when she's walking and what cities are like, and streets, and I recognize the streets. I recognize that when she goes from the cheese market, that's very close to the fish market, or at least the names are still there, the fish market. So that was very nice, and it has the same thing. Well, Amsterdam, I know a little bit less, it's just a big city, but Delft, where she spends a lot of time as well, is where I've lived for 9 years, and I recognize all of the streets, I recognize the buildings, there's a lot of the history that I know of. At one point there's a very big explosion, and that explosion is still a reason for a lot of things in Delft, as to buildings that are not there, or things like that. So I loved that part. I loved, that she walks along a river, and I know that river from having rode there for years and years and years. That was wonderful, and seeing this in this different setting. But I'm afraid that was pretty much everything that I liked about this book, that and reading it with Laura, of course, because the plot it's a little bit too easy. A lot happens in a year. There are a lot of things that it's like bad solutions to problems are solved with a plot twist, and it shouldn't be that heavy. And the writing just really is not good. It's very heavy-handed. Laura explained it very well. It's as if so this is set in the 17th century, and it's told in a way that is to 21st century people. It's very explanatory of, oh, well, she was wearing this and this and this, in a way that is, well, you don't know this because you're not from here. And that made it so difficult to read. Well, it's not difficult to read, but it was not pleasurable at all because it didn't feel natural. And I did recognize in the discussions that there were between characters the very down-to-earth way that the Dutch have of dealing with things. It's very pragmatic, but this was so pragmatic. The characters didn't feel real, and the place only felt real because I knew the streets, and I don't think that if you had that, this would felt like authentic 27th century Netherlands. So do I recommend this one? I'm afraid I don't, although I really remember loving it years and years ago, but maybe that's because I just went through it. Anyway, Simone van der Vlucht, Nachtblauw. And last but not least, I listened to the second installment of the Devabad series by S.R. Chakraborty, and the second book is called, I need to check this, The Kingdom of Copper. So this is a fantasy series set in a world based on Arabic mythology, and we have got jinns, and there are different groups of people. Some are from the earth, some are from fiery things, some are from watery things, some are from skyy things, and they're not allowed to interact with one another and with humans. And the main character, Nahri, realizes after about 20 years that she is in fact one of these magical beings, and she is the descendant of a people that does the healing and that used to have a lot of power. And in the first book she goes to the main city of this kingdom, and in the second book her life has progressed. We are 5 years later, and her standing in society has changed, and she is trying to have more and more influence because she is in conflict with the king. I don't know if he was called a king, but in the king of the kingdom. So we've got her story where she's trying to, because she has these healing abilities, she wants to do more. She's trying to make a hospital in the city, and parallel to that we have the story of Ali, who is the prince that has been, well, I don't know if I'm spoiling things. If you are planning on reading the first book, I would not listen to this, but we have the story of Ali as he comes back to the city and how he deals with his family. And we have got a third plot line that I won't tell you about because that would be spoiling things really badly, but about characters that are trying to take over Devabad, and there is this big celebration that is going to come, and that is where everything is going to come together, all of these different storylines. I'm still very much liking the Devabad trilogy. It's very entertaining. As a lot of trilogies, the second book is often a little bit, there's less happening. It's more building towards what is going to happen in the third one. But I did appreciate some of the twists. I like oftentimes also in these type of trilogies, somehow the world becomes bigger in the second and the third one. And it's as if things are brought into the world that otherwise, because otherwise the plot wouldn't have worked or something like that. I'm not being very clear, but I thought that was very well done, that the way the world is now growing, the things that are added do fit into the tempo. So the way some of the other magical creatures are brought into the plot and brought into the world, I thought that was nicely done. And I also very much like this world because it is not based on standard, well, for me is standard mythology with dragons and whatnot. So I'm still very much liking that. And a last thing that I want to say about that trilogy is that, and I'm curious if other people that have read it also found this, I thought a lot of action, the way it's described, it's often with how people look. So you've got also, she said this, but in her eyes you could see that that was not what she was thinking. That type of, her eyes were blazing. She was still, no, not necessarily throwing daggers, but a lot of the way the characters are described is via their eyes. So it's still looking angry, or if things flash through their eyes a lot of times. Yeah. I think this is a sign I should stop rambling because we've officially arrived at the rambling part of the video. I don't think I'm going to talk about the books that I've read in the first half of February because that is only going to be one, or at least there's more, but they're part of my Invisible Cities project. So there will be a wrap up for February as a whole for you to look out for. So I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching,